Hi, I'm your host, Marsha Florence for Just Ask. Today we have the Kinney Foundation. Hurry back.
I've had the same friends since I was a little kid, but this year, some of them started playing with these other kids. But they weren't like us. They were, different. And I heard my big brother saying some pretty bad stuff about people like them. But they seemed pretty cool, and we had a pretty good time. So, maybe my brother doesn't know everything.
Hey, Carlos, come on, we need you.
Don't be afraid.
Be afraid.
Hi, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Marsha Florence for Just Ask. Today we have the Kinney Foundation with Sue Bernstein, the Executive Director, and Kevin Deegan, Kinney volunteer and a major solo fundraiser. Hi, Sue. Hi, Ken. How are you doing?
Fine, how are you?
Hi, Marsha.
Good, good. Sue, we normally open up our show with a group of questions, and the first question we'd like to ask you, can you give us a history on the Kinney Foundation?
Sure. The Kinney Foundation was formed in 1946 in response to the polio epidemics that were sweeping across the state of Michigan. It was founded in recognition of a woman by the name of Sister Elizabeth Kinney, who was not, as we say, a nun. People often confuse that. She was an Australian Army nurse. And in Australia and in England, nurses are called sisters. And Elizabeth Kinney brought with her a new method of treating polio. And rather than splinting children and adults, as we often saw the pictures of them in splints, she kind of instituted what we see now as physical therapy. That is, keep the muscles moving, keep the limbs moving, keep things going. And as her method kind of swept across the United States in the 40s and the 50s, the early 50s, we saw that the way polio was treated and the way that we dealt with the effects of the disease, that people were getting better, that they were regaining their abilities, they were getting their abilities back, and that there was no longer any need for all of the splints that were used. And then, of course, with the eradication of polio in the 50s and the discovery of the Salk and the Sabin vaccines, our mission changed to provide services to people with disabilities as we do today.
Okay, so is it a broad spectrum of disabilities? It's not limited to what type?
Right,
disability?
that's true. We tend to focus more on people who have mobility impairments, although we are not, and that's one of the things we try to stress, we are not a disease-specific organization. So if people are interested in information on a particular disease, like multiple sclerosis or muscular dystrophy, the best places to go are to those organizations for the specific aspects as they relate to the diseases. If they're interested in information as it deals with the daily living activities of living with a disability, that's where Kinney can come in and offer them a lot of support and help.
Okay, so what kind of staffing do you have?
We don't have a large staff.
Okay.
We don't have a large paid staff. We have a fairly large staff when you take into consideration all of our volunteers that come in and help us to maintain our programs, which we could not accomplish if it were not for our volunteers. Our actual staff size, we only have 5 people in our office, but we probably have somewhere between 40 and 50 volunteers who participate at all different program levels for us, providing services across the state of Michigan.
Now, is there a team of physicians or psychiatrists or any of those in connection with your agency at all?
Not directly connected with our agency, although we have always been involved with specifically physicians of physical medicine, PM&R physicians, and orthopedic physicians, rehabilitation nurses. They've always given us a great deal of information, but they are not specifically involved with the organization.
And you all, are you a nonprofit organization?
Yes, we are a 501c3, and we are United Way funded through the United Way of Michigan, which funds those agencies that provide services across the state of Michigan. So we are not just in the Tri-County area. We do have services across the entire state.
Okay, and what is your funding source? Do you have other assistance, federal funded or?
No, the rest of our funding generally comes from fundraising activities and grant writing, and wonderful people like Kevin sitting here next to me who go out there and do their thing, and Kevin's is to ride his bike and help to raise dollars that help to support our programs, as well as then our major source of funding, which is the United Way.
Okay. Now, Kevin, you being a volunteer and everything, and it says a major solo fundraiser. What is your role in being a major solo fundraiser?
Well, I ride my bike everywhere. What I do is I go out to the community and raise money by taking pledges. And for every mile I go, they would give me so much money.
Okay. Okay.
And next month I'm going to be going on a big ride across the state of Michigan, the Palm Ride, from the west to the east side.
Okay.
It's about 300 to 400 miles in 1 week.
This has got to be a pretty good ride there, a real strong one. Now, Sue, is Kevin doing this in connection with the Kinney? So are you two working together closely?
Yeah.
Very closely together. Kevin this is the 6th year that Kevin will be riding his bike in the Palm. Palm stands for Pedal Across Lower Michigan. It's the 6th year that he'll be riding his bike in the Palm, and he'll be doing, as he said, somewhere between 300 and 400 miles. I think Kevin's greatest accomplishment to date, which is pretty phenomenal, is at the end of 1995, he rode his bike across America for Kenny Foundation in a ride sponsored by AXA. It was called AXA World Ride 95. And Kevin rode, it was a ride that went around the world, and it was a ride of disabled athletes.
Okay.
And Kevin rode his bike in 3 legs of that trip, which went from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. Took about 6 weeks through the mountains. I mean, this guy rode his bike through the mountains, across the desert, you name it. He was there. I mean, I probably couldn't ride 5 miles. He went about over 3,000 and raised close to $60,000 for the Kenny Foundation in pledges.
So,
Yes.
Kevin, are you dressed for all those different type of weathers and everything?
Yes, I have to, but some were difficult than others. The most difficult was on the east part of the trip. We ran into 3 feet of snow one day.
Oh.
And we had a heck of a time riding.
Okay.
But I managed to do it.
Yeah.
When I set my mind to something, I would get it done. I don't let anything stop me.
That's wonderful. Now, Kevin, can you give us a brief history on your disability and share with our viewing and listening audience? Our purpose is mainly to give hope and praise and achievements to others who may have similar, if not same type of
I was
disabilities.
born with cerebral palsy. When I was born, the cord was wrapped around my throat, and I couldn't breathe for a couple of minutes.
Okay.
And it affected mainly my right side of my body. So I used only my left side to do riding events. And when I was born, the doctor told my parents that to put me away in an institution, that I would be nothing but a vegetable all my life. But my mom and my dad said, no way. And then took me home and worked with me, and I owe a lot to my parents, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here now.
Okay.
And I had a determination that would give me not to stop at anything.
Okay.
Like,
Now, how did you come in contact with the Kinney Foundation?
well, about 7 years ago, when I was doing the Palm Ride, I met Frank Hazard, who was the executive director of Kinney Rehab, and I was looking for a non-profit organization to raise money for. And so we became good friends, and Frank talked me into raising money, and I've done it ever since then.
All right. Okay. Well, that's very good. That's very encouraging, too. That's really nice. Okay. So it's been a continuing relationship since 7 years ago?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've been out like once a year. They go out to the community to build ramps for people who can't get out of their houses. I've been on several outings helping them building ramps.
Okay.
But
that's
mostly what I do is ride my bike to raise money.
Raise money and get good exercise at the
Right,
same time?
and how?
Okay, I think I better start riding soon. I don't know what I need to do. I need to do something. Okay, that's wonderful. That's a good way to, help raise money and
Right.
become connected with the agency and, spread some helpful energy and,
Right.
let people know that anyone or everyone can give something a try
Right.
and become successful at it. A lot of our viewers get encouragement from watching the show and seeing people like Kevin and yourself, Sue, to talk about agencies and programs, and that's what's important to us, to get the message out, especially with the involvement with ADA and things of that nature. Let's go to a commercial break and come right back. Thank you.
Every year, Goodwill Industries helps people discover a new day of the week. Payday. We provide job training for people with disabilities and other special needs so they can get jobs, earn paychecks, and lead independent lives. Support Goodwill Industries. Our business works so people can.
Hi, and welcome back to the second half of the show. For those of you who are just tuning in a little late with us, we have the Kinney Foundation, Sue Bernstein, Executive Director, and Kevin Deegan, Kinney Volunteer. Sue, I had a question for you in reference to, can you tell us the type of service that you actually provide?
Sure, I'd love to, Marcia. We have several different areas of services. We have an education program which has had great response that we've been doing since 1990 called Attitudes. It's a children's disability awareness program for first and second graders where we go into the schools across the state, quite a few in the metropolitan Detroit area. Since the inception of the program in 1990, we have reached over 140,000 students with this program. And basically what Attitudes teaches kids is that everybody is the same. Sometimes we just have to do things differently, which I think Kevin is a great role model for that statement. And we go in, we have volunteer teachers, many of whom have disabilities themselves, who go into the classroom and do a 45-minute presentation to the first and second grade students. And during that time, they show them a video about a young boy who has a disability. And then they have the kids do a lot of problem solving, because I think anybody who walks into a classroom today very often would notice that that classroom may not be as accessible as we would like it to be. So they'll do a lot of problem solving with the kids. What would you do if you had to get a wheelchair to the drinking fountain? Or are the desks high enough? And they let the kids come up with the answers. One of the other things that we do is we bring in a pediatric wheelchair and Loft-Strand crutches so that the kids can touch it. We want them to not be afraid of someone with a disability. Just because they may look different, we want them to see how they really are the same. We talk about how, do you know somebody who wears glasses? I mean, even a lot of the kids wear glasses. Well, you have glasses because they help you to see better. People use wheelchairs because they help them to get around better. And we help them to make those kinds of relationships. At the end of the session, after they've gone through the problem solving and what kinds of changes can you make, we have them do a drawing session because we want to know that they have understood the message that we've tried to get across. And I have some pictures from those drawing sessions because some of the drawings that these kids come up with, we are just astounded with. They are just wonderful. And if I can show them.
Sure. Okay.
This is a picture of, we asked them to do a drawing session of themselves playing with a friend who has a disability. And here we have a picture of two able-bodied children and their friend who uses a wheelchair playing jump rope.
Okay.
And so this child has figured out how everybody can play jump rope together.
Right. Okay.
And then we have another picture of a girl whose friend uses crutches, and she's in this child's mind, what she's saying is, it doesn't matter that you have crutches. She says, I like you even though you have crutches. And the young girl with the crutches is saying, I like you too.
Okay, that's wonderful.
And then this, and it isn't just always girls that are in these pictures.
Okay.
These happen to be the three that I brought. But here's two young girls in a ballet class. And I think what's so wonderful is that these are first and second graders. So we can see how this message gets across. And our hope is that as we educate our youngsters and our children about all of the things that people with disabilities can do, we will break those barriers that have been erected in terms of attitudes. And that's why the program is called Attitudes, because that's our goal.
Now, by you starting off with such a young age group, that's very impressionable and helpful.
Exactly.
And it gives the younger generation a better chance to adapt better
That's right.
than if you are adult. I believe that for some strange reason, adults fear rejection or fear getting the right response, you know, and basically that's how our title came about, Just Ask, because
Right.
it takes away some of the fear of wanting to know, oh, you have a disability and, you know, could you tell me about it, this and that, instead of asking, well, I know you have a problem. It's not a problem. You know,
Exactly.
it's a disability or whatever you may choose the term, but it's not a problem.
That's right.
And so I think that our young children have a chance to voice their opinions or concerns or ask questions up front, and they're not intimidated, and it gives them a chance to feel at ease in finding out what their parents may neglect to do so.
Right. And we've received a lot of feedback from teachers. We evaluate the program with the teachers, and we've received a lot of feedback. And what we found out is that the kids go home and they talk with their parents about what they learned in the class. They talk with other siblings and other friends. So our hope is that the message from the program is being carried beyond just the classroom. What we are working on right now, we've had a lot of requests from parents to develop similar programs that are age appropriate for some of the upper grade levels. So what we're working on right now is developing a 3rd through 5th module and then also a middle school or junior high module that we can then find volunteer teachers. And so if I could say to your audience that this program runs because of volunteers. We have training, we train volunteers, we need volunteers, and anyone who's interested in possibly becoming an attitudes teacher for the next school year, the 97-98 school year, to please call our offices and request an application.
Well, you need to give us the number.
I'd be happy to. We have a toll-free number. Okay. It's 1-800-237-3422.
Okay.
And as I said, we're always looking for volunteer teachers for attitudes, and we don't need a large commitment or a long commitment. Even someone who can maybe teach 2 classes a month or 3 classes a month. It's a 45-minute presentation. That would be great.
Okay. Now, do you consider the persons who contact your agency, are they clients, customers? What do you consider them as?
Mostly we consider them consumers for our services. They tend to be people with disabilities, professionals who work with people with disabilities, and then also the family and friends of people with disabilities. So they are all consumers of our services. And that's how we view it. I think a good example would be our Equipment Connection program. We have a client-oriented or consumer-oriented program called Equipment Connection. And all of our programs at this point are from several needs assessments that we've done with the community. What are the community needs? We feel very strongly that our program should reflect what our consumers tell us their needs are. And Attitudes was that. We had consumers tell us overwhelmingly that they felt more handicapped by people's attitudes towards them than they ever did by their own disability. So we felt if we could change those attitudes, beginning with children, that we would be providing a real service to the consumers and to the community. Equipment Connection also came out of that.
Right. I was going to ask you, so we have some brochures here and everything. I wanted to ask you just briefly, can you tell us on this illegal parking? What is that right here? The
illegal parking is really just an informational piece that we will give people these cards, or if you want to call them tickets. And if you look on the back, it's to let people know who may be inappropriately parked in a handicapped parking space, why they need to leave that space open, who needs to use it, and would they please be more careful next time. It's
Okay.
certainly not a ticket in any sense of the word, but we hope that we're educating the general population about the need for handicap parking spaces.
So if you just so happen to notice a car that doesn't have the handicap sticker
Exactly.
on it, this would go on the car?
Yes, and we ask anybody who uses those cards to be very careful and to be
Right.
really aware, because in the state of Michigan right now, there's essentially, well, there's 2 places they're supposed to be, but a lot of times 3 places. One is the placard hanging from the rearview mirror.
Right.
Some people are still using the card that sits on the dashboard.
okay.
And then some people do have handicap plates.
Right.
So you need to be very careful about that not any of those places have.
Right, okay, okay. Now, breaking barriers, the people with mobility impairment, is this one of the programs?
That's our Kenny brochure,
Okay.
which explains all the information about all the program services that we have available. Our mission is to break the barriers that prevent people with disabilities from reaching their desired potential.
Okay, and this is the program you just discussed, right? Attitudes?
That's right. That's
Okay.
the Attitudes brochure for
Okay.
1st and 2nd graders.
Okay, that's one. So you get a lot of invitations out to different schools?
Oh, yeah, we have schools all over.
Is it Wayne County and Oakland County?
It's the entire state of Michigan, as
Wonderful.
long as we have volunteers. And I believe that in the previous school year, not this current year, but the previous school year, just in Wayne, Oakland, Macomb County, we reached about 11,000 children.
That's wonderful. Okay, now the Equipment Connect. Can you give us a little briefing on Equipment
Okay,
Connect?
Equipment Connection is another one of those programs
Okay.
that our consumers told us they had a real need for affordable assistive equipment. I think that that's becoming more evident with managed care and what health insurers will and won't pay for in terms of wheelchairs, lifts, handicap-equipped vans, scooters, crutches. So what we did was we decided there's a lot of good used equipment out there that isn't being used,
Right.
that people have. And we wanted to connect those people who needed the equipment with those people who had the equipment to sell. So we developed a database called Equipment Connection. And essentially what we do is we match buyers and sellers of used assistive equipment.
Okay, so that it can vary from any type of equipment then, right?
Almost anything that you can think of is probably in the database. We average, now again, this is a statewide database, we average anywhere between 600 and 1,000 pieces of equipment at any one time.
Okay, now how does one become involved with the Equipment Connect? Do they call you and,
Yes.
and explain what they need, and you all try to service them?
Exactly. If you want to list equipment or you'd like a printout of what we have of what equipment we know is available, again, you would call the 1-800 number, 237-3422, and ask for the Equipment Connection program. Sally Manns, who is the coordinator for that program, will then do an intake of what kind of either equipment you have to sell or equipment that you're interested in purchasing. And for purchasers, we'll search the database and mail out a listing of the equipment that's available that meets that person's need. What we're really excited about is we've just recently put this program online. We're now on the
Right.
internet.
Okay, internet. Another plus for internet.
That's right.
Okay.
We're on the internet. As far as people being able to search the database, we are working on getting some email capabilities available so that sellers can list their equipment directly through the email. That's not running yet, but it is available on the internet. And can I give our internet address?
Sure.
Okay.
Non-profit?
Yeah.
Okay, if it's non-profit, we're fine
Right.
with it.
Our internet address is comnet, COMNET.org, O-R-G/Kenny. And you can reach information on all of our services that way and also reach the Equipment Connection database.
Okay. In wrapping up the show, Kevin, I'd like to ask you one little question. What are your future plans? And
Well, my next big trip, I'm hoping to go to Vietnam
Vietnam?
next January. The same organization that did a trip across America is doing a trip in Vietnam in January. I'm just waiting now for the information, but I'm hoping to go over there.
Okay.
And like I say, if you put your mind to do something, you can do anything that you want.
Wonderful. Well, are you going to keep us posted on the trips and everything?
And now, I would like to add one other thing. A lot of people doesn't know that we all have handicaps. The only reason you see mine is on the outside.
Okay.
So everyone has handicaps.
Well, thank you, Kevin, and that is so true. Well, Sue, I'd like to thank you very much for
Thank you,
coming
Marcia.
out, and we were more than glad to have you back anytime.
Oh, great.
And
Thank you.
Kevin, we want you to keep us posted on your trip, and
Thank you.
if we can assist you in any way, you let us know.
Thank you.
He's riding in the Palm June 21st, and we are accepting, if I can say, we are accepting pledges
Okay.
at this time. So he'll be starting his ride June 21st through June 28th.
Okay.
And with this ride, I would top over $100,000 mark.
All right. Well, we'll do our best to be a part of that and come out and see you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as I always say, if you know someone with a disability, don't be afraid to ask, just ask. And also, if you're interested in being a guest on the show or any comments, you can call our number, area code 810-988-0250. Once again, I'm your host, Marcia Florence, for Just Ask. Thank you.